course, we continue with conversations as well as analysis around this particular election as the picture becomes clearer and clearer with voting counting continuing right now. And of course, we're just going to give you now an overview of some of those projections as well as some of those conversations that have been had and further expand on what you can expect. So here's where we start. We start with the National Assembly and what it looks like. Look at those 400 seats there in total. Here's what its composition looks like. And of course, the ANC touted to, of course, go for 160 seats, coming back from 230 seats back in 2019, with the DA there with those 84 seats back in 2019, now sitting at 87. Also, the new kids on the block, the MK party, if you may, there with 58 seats, and the EFF there with 38 seats. And look at the other political parties there sitting at 57. But here's also another thing to note insofar as looking at the ruling party there. So many conversations have been had there about that in terms of what actually led to this, might be potentially leading to this picture that we've seen right now in terms of these projections and as far as they are concerned. And also right now, let's move you to our next graphic and give you another picture of what those projections are looking like at this particular point. So the top three players as things stand right now, these are your top three players. And let's just quickly look at what it looks like right now in the party profile scheme of things. Cyril Ramaphosa there, 42%. John Steenhuisen, that's the DA there, 23%, as well as the new kids on the block, the MK party, led by former President Jacob Zuma there with 11%. As you can see there, we continue to make sense of some of these projections, and these are just projections at the moment as we speak to you. And let's take you to our next graphic now to paint another picture for you as to what has been projected in the front of the provinces as well. So we're looking at Gauteng first with about 80 seats there. You can see there the ANC with 28, of course accounting for about 33%, with the DA there with 22 accounting for about 29%. EFF, you can see there about 11 accounting for about 13%. The MK party there 8 with about 9%. And counting is, of course, in progress as we're having this conversation right now. And so much has also been said about Gauteng province, particularly when we looked at what was happening right now in the lead up to these all-important elections. We've seen the campaigning also taking place. We've seen and heard some of the conversations as well as those political parties put in the final stops to try and woo in supporters. Let's take you now to the Free State and give you an overview of what those projections look like there. As you can see there, 30 seats there, with the ANC with 16 accounting for about more than half of them, about 53%. The DA at 7 with 22%. The Economic Freedom Fighters there with 4 accounting for about 13%. The Freedom Fund Plus with just 1 that accounts for about 3%. The MK party also showing up again with 1, and of course accounting for about 2%, as well as other political parties. And we're zoning now into the hotly contested KwaZulu-Natal, because we've been monitoring it religiously as SABC News, because this was another battleground there for votes. Let's take you there and see what is happening and look at those projections for you at this moment. And this is the race for seats in the provincial level there. First, you see the MK party made inroads there, potentially making inroads with 37, and of course accounting for about 44%. The ANC following there with 15, that accounts for about 19% of it. The IFP there follows with the DA, as well as EFF with 2, as well as the other political parties there. Let's move you now to the Northern Cape and see what is happening there and give you a picture of what the Northern Cape looks like and as far as those projections are concerned. So there you have it. The ANC there with 15, that accounts for about 49%. The DA there with a 7, that accounts for about 21%. The EFF as well on that pie chart accounts for about 13%. And as we can see there, the other parties account for 0, and they get nothing in that space. Let's move you now to Limpopo and get a sense of what is happening there with these projections. As you can see, the ANC there with 48, accounting for about 73%. The Economic Freedom Fighters with about 9. That's about 13% on the pie chart. The DA trailing at third place with 4, and that accounts for about 7%. The Freedom Front Plus there with 1, and that accounts for just about 1%. The MK Party and other parties as well are just there at 1. And after Limpopo, let's give you a sense of what's happening with the Northwest. So also, we've seen also some of the campaigning that has been happening there in the Northwest with some of the political parties as well, pulling out all the stops to try and win supporters. Here's what the projections look like at this moment. You can see on that pie chart there with the ANC accounting for about 60% of it. And we can see there the EFF with about 17%. The DA there with a 12% on the pie chart. And this is an overview and a projection of the race for these seats provincially. And let's take you to our next province now that we are watching for you. And that is, of course, the Western Cape. The DA at 23 with about 55%. And you can see there the ANC about 9 there with 19%. And as you can see there, the EFF with 2, with just about 4% of it, as well as other political parties with about just 4. And we continue to zone into the other provinces. Let's take you to the Eastern Cape now and see what these projections are showing us there. And of course, you can see the ANC about 46, accounting for 66%. The DA following with about 11, accounting for about 12%. The EFF with 7 there, accounting for about 10%, as well as the other political parties there with about 3, and that's just about 6% from what those projections tell us. Last but not least, let's take you now to Mpumalanga and get a sense of what that province looks like as far as those projections are concerned in the race for, of course, those seats there. The ANC at 26, that accounts for 49%. The MK Party at 9, and that accounts for about 18%. The Democratic Alliance at 7, that accounts for about 14%. The EFF there at 7, that accounts for about 13%. The Freedom Front there with 1, and that accounts for just about 2%. And those are some of those projections as far as the provinces are concerned. And it was very interesting to also listen in on some of the conversations that are coming from the Results and Operations Center with our colleagues insofar as those projections are concerned. In the grander scheme of things, just looking at the journey that has been traveled to get to this point right now as we're seeing all of the vote counting. And we will continue to give you some analysis as we are on the pulse of it all right here on the SABC News channel. Do stay tuned.